All right, everybody. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and of course, I'm joined with my co-hosts Darian Smith and Jimmy Marion. And guys, we've got a really good recap episode for UAB basketball as UAB takes down a really good Tulane team last night in Bartow Arena, 83-69. But before we get into recapping that game, and also what happened this past Sunday in Boca Raton against FAU. This game recap episode and all game recap episodes are brought to you by Cahaba Brewing Company. And today we're going to highlight the Cahaba Pale Ale, really smooth, full-bodied beer, super low ABV, just 4.1%. If you have not checked out that beer or any of Cahaba's beer, make sure you go down to the tap room. Make sure you let them know that you listen or watch the Blazer Victory podcast, and that is why you're wanting to check them out. Helps us out a lot. But again, thank you to Cahaba for sponsoring our game recap episodes all football and now basketball season long. But guys, there was no sweat. Well, there was sweat. Yeah, Jimmy, I see you.
Yeah.
There, at least the last few minutes of the game, as UAB took a double-digit lead and kind of pulled away without some help from their, big-time scorers. There was no EG scoring. Eric Gaines didn't kind of had an off night. Tony had an off night. But I think we should start this episode with Vasquez having a career-high 28 points in the game against Tulane last night. And, Jimmy, I'm going to throw it to you to kind of let the listeners know and the viewers know about Vasquez's career night last night in Bartow.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to start. Vasquez has had these types of outings, not to this extent, but he scored 20-plus points in earlier games this year. And, with him, it's been a consistency thing, right? He dealt with a nagging injury earlier in the year that slowed him down a little bit. And last night was a great showing. I mean, he was hitting shots from here, there, and everywhere. He was taking advantage of his opportunities. The team in recent games, and the coaching staff in particular, has done a good job of getting him clean looks from three-point range, and he's taking advantage of that. We know that Vasquez, and we even saw it earlier in the year, could play bully ball down low, could get downhill to take advantage of those mismatches and score around the basket, and he did that last night too. We were talking pre-pod, and, we were talking about how he had a few offensive rebounds, and he was just wreaking havoc around the rim. And there was one moment during the broadcast that he was essentially double teamed down low, and then he just went right through them and then still scored the basket. And one of the announcers had said, you just can't allow that, if you're the other team. And that's the types of plays that Vasquez makes with his physicality. But I think it was last episode, guys, we talked about how Vasquez is that next player for me after we've seen the progression from Yax that could really change the outcome and the ceiling for this UAB basketball team rest of season. And it's just that production scoring-wise from the guard position that we really need to see. And so, yeah, he not only had a career high in scoring output at 28 points, but that was his career high 10 made field goals. So he did it again at all three levels, which is what he was accustomed to doing at the junior college level last year. And it was certainly great to see, and it certainly played a major factor in why UAB won this game against Tulane.
Yeah, and I think the slotting of Vasquez and Butter as these scorers on the team, as the to-go scorers, is really what's helping. I think it's all about identity and role, right? Using Gaines as this perimeter utility weapon, right? He can get down here. We saw the amazing N1 play that Gaines had. He can do things but that's he has to be utilized to his strengths, because when he's not, he can seem as if he's a negative player. A lot of times we do run offense for Vasquez and get him open. He's a three-level scorer, but sometimes that first and second option break down, and it's 9 seconds left on the play clock, and you need guys to just go get a shot. Butter has that patented pull-up jump shot that he gets in the mid-range. He can get it off. All he just needs to give you a shoulder, and he can get it. It's a good shot. And Vasquez can do things. That's not Eric's game. You're going to end up probably with something that you don't really want, but Eric can help facilitate in helping that guy get that shot. And if you start sleeping on him, that's how he caught that one guy with the crossover to get downhill. The guy kind of looked around and Eric was gone. Once you know how to utilize these guys right, that's when you can get the most out of them. And I think that is what we're seeing it before our eyes. I love the start lineup with AJ Vasquez and Butter and Eric. Yes, it's kind of small in the backcourt, but we have Yax and JD to kind of mitigate that. And I think we have two scorers. We don't have to depend on Eric to score in that group. He can do all types of things in that group. And I think that's when he's utilized best. So we just see AJ just doing his thing. He's 3-level, shooting threes, shooting mid-ranges, getting downhill, playing bully ball. I love what the coaching staff is doing. And I think we got an identity forming on offense. And I think we can do something with it.
Yeah, and you love to see, Vasquez continuing that rhythm or finding that rhythm again after having a couple good games. But before we go any further, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, follow us at youtube.com and then go to Blazer Victory and that will pull up, but it's at Blazer Pod. If you are watching us right now, hit that like and subscribe and comment below like what you thought of Vasquez's performance against Tulane and how hopefully we can see more of that, especially going into this Saturday afternoon against East Carolina. But guys, I just want to
one more point I forgot to bring up. We talked about it pre-pod was that his offensive rebounding. He was the leading. Yes. We doubled them in rebounding, 29 to 49. He was our leading offensive rebounder. That is major when you have a guard that can get in there and scrap. He's a big burly guy. Like he's not a small guard, right? So when you have a guard that can get in there and get some rebounds, especially against a high-powered offense like Tulane, you can slow them down, and he was getting points off of them. I wish I could find a stat to see how many offensive rebounds he got for points or assisted for points, because they all came, to me, it seemed like they came in crucial moments watching the game, or he either slowed to run or continued to run for us. He slowed to run for Tulane or continued to run for us with the offensive rebound. So I think that part of his game is so underrated. I didn't know he had that part of his game. And that's something to keep an eye on is his rebounding. Will he be impactful with it going forward?
Yeah, and I'll say real quick just on second chance points, if I'm looking at this right, UAB had 16 second chance points compared to Tulane 0. So, I mean, that's quite the stat. And Vasquez likely played a part in that, as you see with Yax, who would have been a contributor as well. But that was an interesting stat for sure. It's plus 16, but only allowing Tulane to have one offensive rebound and then also 0 second chance points.
Yeah, Jimmy, that's what I was just going to say. If you look at the box score, you'll realize that they only had one offensive rebound. So that shows how active we were down low. But not only the bigs, like Darian mentioned earlier about Vasquez getting those second chance opportunities for UAB, and Yax getting, 18 rebounds, which is the most rebounds by UAB players since 2013. Like, that is insane. Yax getting another double-double. But I was going to get you guys see what you guys thought. Did you like seeing Butter run point more and being that one versus, kind of letting E.G. Eric Gaines kind of be more free to where he doesn't have to run point as much? And Jimmy, I know you have some stats to back that up from the performance last night.
Yeah. Do I like it? I'm intrigued by it. I would say I'm intrigued. Butta does play point for UAB in a backup capacity, right? So it's not like he is not. It's not like he's not familiar with playing point guard for UAB. We haven't seen it a ton. And last night, what really stood out is a text of the group is really late in the game. When Eric came in after having sat a little bit in the second half, it was Butta primarily leading the offense, if you will. Now, I will say this. At the end of the game, outside of some steals that led to fast break opportunities, it was UAB slowing the ball down a little bit, as they should have, because they had the lead, right? So it wasn't like we were running, all of our full sets as we would if it was a closer game. But I think as it relates to Butta being at the point, I think it just provides a little bit of a calmness and like security as you think about potential for turnover. So Butta, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he finished with 1 turnover compared to EG's 3. Butta also had 6 assists. One of the assists that stood out for me for Butta earlier in the contest was, we talked about Vasquez, but was a simple like additional pass to Vasquez, like up at the perimeter to give Vasquez like a really clean look from 3. It's a simple pass. It's just that next pass. And I think Butta did a good job in getting some of his shooters, in positions where they had opportunities to make and take clean looks. We talk about EG being a facilitator and UAB's success as it correlates to that. UAB is still undefeated this season when Eric Gaines takes fewer than 10 shot attempts. That's 6-0. If you want to count 10 or fewer shot attempts, they're 7-0 this season. So that just, again, gives credit. Eric went through quite the span of games in which he was what I would call more of a pass first versus shoot first. And that was amidst that 6-game winning streak for UAB. So we've seen Eric distribute the ball and do a good job of that this season. And he still had some good passes last night too, some of which were finished with assists and some of which were missed or, creating foul shot opportunities for UAB. So I do think EG last night was looking to pass the ball, and EG was really aggressive on the boards. So he was chasing down long rebounds. So he was doing a really good job of that as well. And AK would be the first one to tell you it wasn't EG's best game. 27 minutes, I believe, tied a season low for Eric Gaines this season for UAB. So, there was some tinkering there. And so I'm intrigued by what we saw there late. Do I think it will result in more EG off ball? That's to be determined. And we will certainly find out on Saturday if that's a trend that will continue.
I would say this. I think I'm big on sliding. And I think what it did was, like, Butta is good at, he can hit contested shots. And you have to go over screens. You can't slip and go under and make the offense kind of wonky in a sense and break it down. And what you can scheme up for Eric, but you have to play Butta straight up. But one thing Eric is good at is he can knock down open shots, right? So we see him running baseline, running off screens, and you can't leave him open to shoot by himself, because once he's good and settled and poised, he can knock that shot down. I feel confidence in him taking that shot. So I think that minor adjustment of having Butta on the ball, running EG through screens, it gives the defense, it throws their scheme off. You can't load up in the box like you traditionally could. And then also, EG is a good secondary playmaker, right? I think once he passes, we saw a couple of times where Butta got the ball in the corner and made that corner 3 off a play. A lot of times it was EG dishing the ball to him. Having EG as the secondary playmaker, if he's attacking a closeout on the open shot, like, I think it just creates more. It opens it up more for the offense. It's more options that you have there. And I think EG is best used as a finisher too. Finishing and assisting. Like, if you give him what can I say? If you give him a pathway to make the decision, throw a lob, take this shot, instead of him trying to create it, he's so much better, right? Jelly was a creator. Like, Jelly was just cook up and bam. That's not EG. That's not his game. But if you have to find ways, he's a weapon, and you have to find a way to utilize that weapon. You can't put a missile in a 38. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, you can't force something, right? But if you put it in its right spot, that weapon can be very effective. And it's been kind of hard figuring out how to use EG as the weapon, but I think we're figuring it out, especially offensively. And defensively, we saw him do a lot of good things. One thing that I saw is between EG and Ortiz was digging down and helping. I've complained so many times, and I'm kind of transitioning to another topic, but I complained so many times about how we left our people on islands so much, and you wonder why they ISO us and go one-on-one, because there's no help. If you spread out, there's no help, and guys just get to kind of dance around, spin, and one. I'm like, dude, is he gonna just defend this guy by himself all the time? But that wasn't the case. We got a lot of deflections. Ortiz had a rough shooting night, right? But he was so effective defensively. I didn't know that was part of it. I'm sorry, Daniel. I was unfamiliar with your defensive game, right? I didn't know that was part of his game. He was digging down, helping. EG got a couple of steals, digging down, helping. It was crowded for them. And I wasn't scared when we ran the 1-3-1 zone. I was always scared of that because those corner threes. I can tell that we have worked on that backline defender. It was Butter a lot. They pre-rotate early, right? And they get to where they need to go. And we closed out on the 3-point shooters, guys. We closed out on 3-point shooters. I can't believe it. We closed out on them. We made them drive into a crowd. And then we helped on defense. Shout out to Christian Coleman. They did a good job of closing out. Make a guy pump fake. He drives. And then there was another guy there. And a lot of times, if you go back and look at that film, those guys were kind of stuck like, oh, UAB doing, like, I'm not used to this, right? And we threw them off their game. So I think it was just really good for us. Our defensive effort. We saw our intensity ramp up. And I think that was the difference in the game. Rotate, close out, contest shooters. I think Tulane averaged almost like somewhere up towards 90 points a game. They're the highest. They were the highest scoring team in conference.
Yeah.
Held them to 60. We held them to 69, and it was based off effort and communication. We didn't lose shooters, John. We always lose shooters, right?
Right.
And people light us up. We communicated. We closed out. We helped, and then if they kicked it back out, we had another guy making another effort, contesting the shots. Every time we contested a shot, they missed. And to me, that was the whole highlight. That was the game summed up because their energy is infectious. And you saw it in the rebounding when we doubled them up. It was just extra effort after extra effort. And it was just too much for them. If we play with that, if we're that team that play with that energy, we're going to be really, really tough to beat.
Yes, and speaking of transitioning into that effort, one of my favorite plays of last night's game was an effort play by Yax. You know, we mentioned another double-double having those 18 rebounds. One of those 18 rebounds, he saved a ball out of bounds, threw it up. Ortiz caught it, and Ortiz had to give some effort, too, to get that ball from him. But what does he do? Alley-oop dunk to Yax. And that was like the perfect, like, okay, we see the effort here. We see what this UAB team is capable of. Darren and Jimmy will be right back. But, you know, we talked a little bit last night after the game about Christian Coleman. And I know you briefly brought him up. But the guy scored 13 points and also got 7 boards, 7 rebounds. Can you talk about just the continued progression from his game that you've seen, and you've been seeing it the last few weeks? You know, you've told us in the group text, but can you talk a little bit about Christian Coleman and what you see out of him to continue to progress to help this team out more?
Energy, confidence, and you see a guy that's comfortable, that understands where he's supposed to be now. Understands where he can get spots, understand where his spots are at. He understands what spots to be aggressive in. Only thing he probably should to continue, and he's getting better. Only thing he probably should continue to work on is just going up stronger with the ball. But other than that, you see some of those qualities that made him the number 2 player coming out of JUCO. His athleticism, we haven't really seen his athleticism pop. This guy's been playing above the rim. This dude had a freaking reverse slam, kind of almost half 360.
Hey, that was nice. And he also had another, well, he missed a dunk, but to be honest, I thought he got fouled on that one.
I thought he got fouled on that.
Yeah. But
and then he had the alley-oop from Gaines right? Like you're seeing his athleticism, you're seeing his energy. He's playing with so much spark and so much energy. You saw him hit a mid range, and I saw him tweet afterwards. He quoted that he was like, "The work will show." He's been working on that mid range, and that's important because that means they can't load up on him. He has so much energy defensively. Like I said, help rotate out, help rotate out. I saw him. He communicated. Earlier in the season, he was getting kind of lost in the shuffle. Like, oh, do you switch here? Do you help here? Like, he kind of got lost. Now it was like, oh, I'm switched out. Oh, I need to get back in the lane. Help. Let me run back out to my shooter. Contest the shot. Miss shot. Oh, let me get in here and tip the rebound around. Like, let me run out in transition. He's a fast, quick player. He does so many different things, right? If he continues with it, he's almost like another version of Yax. You right? If he continues with that energy, just that effort, that energy, and that confidence, that belief, he hasn't reached his ceiling neither, people. And I'm really excited because how tall is Christian Coleman? 6'9", 6'10"?
Sounds right.
Somewhere between 6'8" and 6'10", right? If he continues with his progression and just understand to be confident at all times, when you go up strong, try to dunk on somebody's head every time, just be strong with it. You'll get fouled. If he continues with that energy and that passion, man, just like we said with AJ Vasquez, Christian Coleman to me is a guy that can really take this team to another level. With that play, you have two guys. If you have two guys that's like Yaks running around on the court everywhere, and they're like 6'9", right? And they're just getting it done, just fighting for every rebound, closing out on shooters, switching out on guards, like they doing all this stuff. You get wore down with guys like that, getting steals, running out in transition. Like they do so much. I'm so excited for those two. I know they're JUCO guys. They only have 2 years, but the future is bright as far as like in next year. Just knowing that they went through all of these storms this season, they're still going through them. We're still fresh into conference play. I'm excited to see their growth.
Yes, definitely. Hey, and shout out to Barry Dunning Jr. I mean, he only played 2 minutes, but he got that slam dunk. So that's
I'm a
good to
Barry
see.
Dunning fan.
Yeah,
Barry
me too.
Dunning, bro.
Me too. Yeah.
Can we please? He can hit the three.
Yes.
Wait, what can he not do? Like I don't know, man. I don't know. I like him. What you think?
Yeah, I love Barry Dunning Jr. And I hope to, and I kind of know he's, kind of feeling his way out as well. But we're just waiting on that moment. Like, hey, Christian Coleman had his moment. He's continued that rhythm. Vasquez had his moment. He's continued that rhythm. Dunning, hey, if he can get out there now, most of the time when he's out there, that does mean one of, a couple things that either JD or Yaks are in foul trouble. But I mean, he played a little bit against FAU, didn't do bad, and like I said, he had this game against Tulane, had a dunk. So you love to see it. Very lengthy guy. I mean, the talent's there. He's just got to find himself.
I asked this question: can he not play the three though?
I think so.
I think he's a 3-4 4-3 tweener. I don't think he's a big, right? I think he's like a tweener type. I think he can play multiple positions. I'm not in practice though. Like I don't know. I just go out there and see. I've seen him earlier. I've seen him hit threes. I've seen him hit a mid range. I've seen him guard on the perimeter. I've seen him guard down low. I'm sitting here like, I mean, he can play alongside. He can play alongside Christian Coleman and Yaks or Christian Coleman and JD or whatever. He can play the three spot. I don't know. Maybe it's a minutes crunch because you already got Tony coming off the bench. Ortiz,
that's probably what it is. Yeah.
Christian Coleman. Who am I missing? That's only 3 guys.
And Andy has said, he really wants that 7 to 8 guys. Big rotation.
There we go.
So that's probably it.
Barry Dunning fan club over here, me and John.
Whoop whoop, podcast. But hey, again, UAB gets it done, 83-69, improves to 3-1 in the American Athletic Conference. Well, we got to talk very quickly, Darian. We got to talk about that loss in Boca this past Sunday.
I had a baby dedication. I couldn't see it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what you're talking. What we were in Boca. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yes, Sunday morning Boca. I mean, we won't spend too much time on this. I mean, UAB loses in Boca. They covered the spread. 86 to 73. So
With the
that's what.
spread. Let's go.
But I mean, hey, FAU still the class of this conference. Maybe FAU, Memphis, and maybe North Texas. But this FAU team, John L. Davis, Darian, you and I, we saw it last year when UAB went to Boca. He, had that highlight game against us and had another highlight game. He had everything he wanted to do with UAB. 30 points, 10 of 16 from the field, and UAB just, I don't know, at times, they really, Jimmy was talking to us in the text thread right after that game, and I mean, they really just took advantage of switches, especially John L. Davis. When you've got John L. Davis on JD, I mean, good luck. It's just so hard. But you have to respect that interior of FAU with Vlad Golden, like 7-footer. Like, you've got to keep a body on him. But these guards, I mean, especially John L. Davis, and unfortunately, it was just worst case scenario for UAB. John L. Davis went off, and I mean, they just had a fiery 3-point shooting, affair. They shot 8 3-pointers, shot almost 50% from the floor. Just kind of had all they wanted with UAB.
And it's funny because we haven't really seen JD get hunted on switches until you guys were telling me about how Jonell Davis kept on hunting for that switch, right? And it's funny that happened because I saw Tulane do that a couple times. If you go back and watch that film, you'll see a lot of times, and you can tell the player kind of look up, and you see the other players do this. Like, go ahead, that's you, 1-on-1. You can tell that they watch the film and say, okay, this is how we're gonna attack. So if I'm JD, take it personal. Take it personal, because what they're trying to tell you is that, oh, you're the weak link on the defense. This is the guy you go, and then he'll get in foul trouble, right? Because what's his strength? He can rebound. He can get your bigs in foul trouble, and he can score. He can post really well. Those are his strengths, and he can shoot free throws. Let's get him out the game. They're trying to tell you can't guard, right? And it's funny because I did see 2 standout defensive positions from JD this game. I saw him help. I know I've been kind of critical of his help defense. I saw him get vertical. He stopped as it was a guy that drove right into him. He stopped him cold in his tracks, kept his hands up, used his body. The guy just fell to the ground, tried to flop 4-5, no call, off to the races. UAB. We scored 2 points from Butter Johnson, and I'm like, that's how you play defense. I also saw one time where a guy did try to go 1-on-1 with them. Right, somebody was trying to call me. The guy tried to go 1-on-1 with him. He spin down the lane, and JD got a steal. I've seen him moving around more. I've seen him he helped more on defense. Hopefully that FAU game he learned something. He's taking it personal. They're going to challenge him. They're going to continue to challenge him, especially as when we get into further into conference play. Everybody see the same film. They're going to say, challenge this big man. He can't guard. And I don't believe that's true. I don't think that's true, especially after seeing those couple positions against Tulane. There's a couple times Tulane did get him. But it's a fight. It's a battle, right? Like, I think it was at least it was a draw to me. I think the 1-on-1 JD battle was a draw. So, shout out to Jonell Davis. He went and did his thing like he always do against us. I'm so tired of him turning into LeBron against us, man.
Yeah, me too, man.
But I think it exposed something for JD to take personal, and I think he will. And I'm expecting to see JD mixed with Trey Jemison going forward, on defense.
Yes, would love to see that. Well, guys, if you are watching our YouTube, shout out to YouTube. Again, like, subscribe. But I want you to. Oh, you can't hear me? Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
You ain't talking on mute, are you?
Oh no, I'm not on mute. Can you hear me? Oh, I don't know. Well, hopefully I'm recording, or hopefully it's going through. We're about to wrap anyway. But shout out for those watching on YouTube. Comment below and say where you think Jimmy went. He might have gotten a recruiting call. You know, he is straight up on the football and basketball recruiting. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/blazerpod. Tons of great info in regards to UAB football recruiting update. But I'll go ahead and send us out. Until next time, thank you, Cahaba, for sponsoring this game recap. But we'll see you next week. Just Blaze.